I remember the first time I saw somebody using a satellite communicator, and it was in the Rocky Mountain National Park, and I had come up here in 2019, and my daughter was going to college at Western Colorado University, something like that. So before she went there, I was staying up here in the South Denver area, south side of Denver, and so we went to go hiking a couple days before she started school, and we were up there at the Rocky Mountain National Park, and I don't even know if I knew what a satellite communicator was. In fact, I know I didn't. I had no idea. I knew about sat phones. I had some knowledge that there was ham radios, but I didn't know about satellite communicators. So we're up there hiking, and this older gentleman, really good shape, but I would say he's probably 65 to 70. And we were at Bear Lake. So we were up there in the Rocky Mountain National Park. We went to Estes Park, and we went real early. So we got there before, well, the sun was just coming up, actually. We were up there hiking up the trail and just had a great day. Beautiful weather there that day. And this gentleman walks by, and my daughter and I had stopped, and he was actually moving pretty quick. And I saw something blinking on his shoulder, and it was on his left shoulder, and I was standing over here to his right. I noticed this thing, and I was like, what is that? What do you have? And it was a Spot Gen 3. And so we started talking about it a little bit, and he said his wife was always concerned about him going out and hiking by himself, and he loves the outdoors, and for whatever reason she doesn't go out with him, or a lot, I guess. But he was telling my daughter and I how with the Spot Gen 3 he can get help, search and rescue services, and his wife can see where he's at. When you start tracking with that device, then she can look on her phone or on a computer, and I think it's maybe every 5 or 10 minutes that it lays a track down and she can see his location. So she can be comforted knowing that, okay, he said he was going here, he is there. Now all of a sudden, maybe he hasn't moved for 2 hours. So if you don't see any tracks and there's no movement, then that's when you could see where he's at. You could contact search and rescue yourself or the fire department, whoever, give the location, the coordinates, and then they can go out. Either you could go out yourself, but in that situation, it's probably best to contact the fire department and say, hey, can you send somebody out to check these coordinates and see if he's okay? So that was the first time I'd ever heard about that. And you know, just a little bit more information here. For, I think 2 years before that, I had been starting to train with Wealthy Affiliates, wealthyaffiliate.com, and they teach you how to build a website, how to deal with, social media, make videos, SEO, which is search engine optimization. It's all about educating you to build an online business. And a lot of people want to do that. And I had been interested in that for some time. And then I got up here and I thought, man, I'm in Colorado. What a great opportunity to test these satellite communicators out as I'm hiking, because most of the time I'm out here by myself. Now, Ranger, my dog, he'll be with me sometimes, and I love to take him, but on a long hike, we did this one time. Reminds me of this other story. We were down by Durango, and we went on a hike, and it was September or so. I believe it was September. And it ended up being like a 10-mile hike into the mountains and back. We were trying to get up to where there was a lake or waterfall or something, but we didn't do our research. And we went like 10 miles in, and all of a sudden we're like, this keeps going up. And what it was, we were going into, I think, the San Juan National Forest, and it was kind of heading up towards Silverton, and beautiful areas up there. If we would have gone another 5 miles or so, we would have been at the top of the world with these little mountain lakes all over the place. But we had gone about 10 miles in. So we finally get up there pretty high. I mean, we were probably at 11,500 feet. And we were exhausted. We thought it was a day hike. I think we did have some day packs with us and basic stuff. No satellite communicator though at that point. Actually, I wasn't living in Colorado then, living in Oklahoma. So we start heading back down, and I am so wiped out at this point. Ranger, every little stream he comes across, he's laying down in the water. He's about to die. This is one of the first times where I've heard of people in the past where they just give up and they just don't have the will to go on, and they die. Either they'll die or they'll nearly die because they just don't have the will to fight or go on. And I was so exhausted myself, and we were starting to run out of water. I was so tired and so exhausted that I started to get that feeling of, I just want to sit down. I don't want to go anymore. I give up. Really interesting. I'm going to cover this story in another podcast later on. It was a beautiful hike, but Ranger got wiped out, and I realized that he has a limit. I think I have a limit, and I do. I think I can go farther than him, because actually what happened, we started carrying him because we just had to get off the mountain. I'll tell you what, that sleep that night, I was aching, but it felt really good to get back to the tents. So back to the story in progress. That's when I realized, though, covering these satellite communicators and testing them was the way to go for me. I love the outdoors. I like to test things. I'm an engineer, a civil engineer. I design highways, my day job. So I bought the Spot Gen 3. That was the first one I bought because at that point, I think it was the least expensive satellite communicator on the market. Now I think the least expensive is the Motorola Defy Satellite Link. But that was the Spot Gen 3 was my first one, so I got it, I tested it, and then I got the Spot X, and then I just kept progressing. I knew I wanted to get the Garmin inReach Mini 2 and the GPSMAP 66i and 67i, but I wanted to leave those more advanced satellite communicators, at least what I thought were more advanced. I wanted to leave them till a little bit later. So I started testing the least or the lower cost satellite communicators, and I just started field testing them. And then I realized how important these were. So meeting that gentleman was just a great part of story and history of my life, of not knowing that I really should have a satellite communicator for years. I mean, I was at that point, I was in my 40s, I think, actually late 40s. And I finally realized that besides being prepared and having a first aid kit, having the ability to communicate is extremely important, especially places like in Colorado and I guess Canada, Alaska, places where you don't have solid cell service. You need to be able to communicate. Well, that's how this whole YouTube channel and the website came to be, was meeting that man on a trail in the Rocky Mountain National Park. And it's changed a lot of things. And, you know, I haven't had to use a satellite communicator to rescue somebody in a life-threatening situation, but my son was on a mountain. That's another story. There's all these stories up here I keep forgetting about. We were hiking the first segment of the Colorado Trail, and it was about 16 miles. And I think there's 25 or so segments. It goes from Denver to Durango, and if you can make that in one summer, you're a stud. Now, people do that, but I didn't. I thought what I wanted to do was like break it up into segments. Well, we did the first segment, and I got up to the high point in the trail or close to it, and my daughter and I realized we were having trouble, and it was with our feet, really. My daughter realized that she was starting to develop blisters, and I was just not in the right shape, and still am not. I'm really working on this to get in better shape here in Colorado. But she didn't want me going back by myself, because at that point she was already involved in search and rescue, and you never let somebody go out by themselves. You always have at least two people. So she went back with me. She started struggling because those blisters started just killing her feet. What happened is we got down there and we were outside of cell service. We were, near Denver. In that canyon there was no cell service. Fortunately, I had a satellite communicator. My son does too, but he didn't have his with him that day. But he was high up on the mountain and he had cell service. Well, he got in trouble and he was having real difficulty getting off the mountain, but he had already gone over the top and he was on his way down to the other side. So my daughter and I are wiped out. And I'm going to tell the story another day, but we had to get around the backside and use our satellite communicator to be able to communicate with him, and then to go up and find him and help get him off the mountain. Again, another story, different day, but there's so many reasons why you should have some kind of ability to communicate outside of cell service. I started touching on a lot of different stories there, but it really is important. Be prepared. Start with something inexpensive if you don't have a lot of money. If you have more money, I would say the #1 satellite communicator, or two of them, the Garmin inReach Mini 2 and the Garmin GPSMAP 67i. I like the 67i when you're on a longer backpacking trip because everything's on the device. You don't have to sync it with your smartphone. You can, but it has the screen, it has the ability to navigate, and you can message more easily, and then it's SOS and everything, and it's a little bit bigger, and I've got it right here, but it's about the size of my hand, like that. The Mini 2 is smaller. It's about, I would say, the size of my fist if I could scrunch it up real small, but it has most of the features that the 67i has when you sync it with your smartphone. The Mini 2 for me is more of a day hiking satellite communicator. Some people disagree and say the Mini 2 is better for the longer backpacking trips because it's so small and lightweight. But anyway, have something. And if you have a little bit more money and you want to save, go for that Mini 2 or the 67i. If you don't have a lot of money, there's the Motorola Defy, the Spot Gen 4. Now it's replaced the Gen 3. And there's another one in there. There's things like the ACR Bivy Stick, the Zoleo. Anyway, there's a lot of them. You can check them all out on my website because I cover them all. Be prepared. Have fun. But be ready when things aren't so fun. Thanks for joining me here at Outdoor Emergency Tech here in Colorado. And I'll see you back here in another video.